CompTIA Cloud Plus, Prompt Engineering. Prompt engineering is the practice of crafting effective inputs to optimize outputs from AI language models. It involves designing and refining text inputs or prompts to guide AI models in generating accurate and meaningful responses. This skill is crucial for achieving reliable and optimized AI outputs, making it essential in various industries such as healthcare, education, and marketing. You might think that AI is going to replace every job on the planet, but that's just not true. And AI will always need data scientists, programmers, and prompt engineers. In this lesson, we're going to look at several different methods to do prompt engineering. First, I'm going to define these, and then I'm going to give you an example. A zero-shot prompt is where the AI model is prompted to perform a task without being offered or provided any examples of the desired output in the initial prompt. So basically, you're relying upon the model's ability to generalize your instructions. An example of this would say, here's a bunch of text, go ahead and classify it for me. An example of not using zero-shot would say, here's some text, categorize it into sports, blockchain, or politics. Single-shot prompt engineering involves providing the AI model with one example of the desired output along with an input prompt. I'll give you an example in a moment. Few-shot prompt engineering involves providing the AI model with two or more examples of the desired output along with your input prompt. A negative prompt might be something like this. Let's say you go to DALL-E and ask it to generate a picture for you. You might say something like this. Give me a picture of the beach with very small waves or no waves. Or write a story about going to spring break, but omit any references to drugs, alcohol, or nudity. In-context prompts is when you provide some detailed information and background within the prompt to help the AI generate accurate and relevant responses. And then chain of thought prompt engineering is when you actually ask the AI to show you how it got to the result. So for example, you might say, what is the factor of this number? And follow that up by saying, show me how you got to the factor of this number. Let's look at some more examples. I'm going to go up to Copilot, which is actually using Cloud AI. In fact, it's using highly robust Microsoft Azure. So when you use Copilot in your Edge browser, you're actually using Cloud AI. Now, full disclosure, I just had surgery on one of my hands, and I can't type very well. So instead of watching me type in an excruciating fashion, I'm just going to copy and paste my prompts in there. So I'm going to right-click and paste as plain text. This is a zero-shot prompt. Is the band Kansas in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Click on the up arrow. No, Kansas has not been inducted. Well, that's a travesty. How about another example? How much energy is used when a prompt engineer includes the words please and thank you? This is interesting. So, Microsoft Azure using Copilot is saying that it's essentially negligible. However, if you do this on a large scale, and we just found this out recently from a very famous AI engineer, that it actually does use up a lot of power. So when you're doing prompt engineering, you don't have to say please or thank you because it's not a person. All right, how about a single shot example? So here, I'm going to give it a task, I'm going to prompt it, I'm going to give it an example, and then some input. So I'm looking for some output here, and I'm giving them one example. The example being, the movie was great, I loved every moment of it, positive. Then I'm giving it some input, and I want to see what the result is. And so based on this single shot, it's telling me that the phrase, the food was terrible and the service was slow, is a negative. And we call this sentiment analysis, or sentiment classification. Let's do a few-shot prompt with the task of translating the following sentences from English to French. I'm going to prompt it with 3 examples. Translating the cat is on the roof, she is reading a book, and they are playing soccer. Then I'm going to input, he is eating an apple, and it should give me the proper response. Il mange une pomme. All right, excellent. We used 3 shots there. Let's do one in context, where we're going to provide quite a bit of context and detailed information within the prompt to help it generate the response that we want. So I'm asking Copilot to write a very short and engaging story, and I'm saying follow these steps. First, introduce the main character, next present a problem or a challenge, then describe their journey, and then finally conclude. There we go. Lena had always been the quiet one in her bustling seaside town, content to listen over and over and over. Now, what I could do is I could follow this up with a negative prompt and say, don't make the character named Lena if I didn't want her to be named Lena. Maybe I don't really care. I just don't want that particular name. So I could negative prompt this and get another result. Now, to look at chain of thought reasoning, I'm going to take you up to an Amazon Web Services site. We're going to leave the world of Microsoft Azure and go up to AWS. And you can search for this just by putting in Bedrock prompt templates and examples in any search engine, and you would find this. This is a good site to go look at. This is the AWS Generative AI site that makes it really easy to do Gen AI. And it has a bunch of different templates here, and you can just use these templates for text classification, question generation, question answer without context, questions with context or in context, and they give you examples. You can just take these templates and then you can just pop them into something like Copilot or Anthropic Claude, as we can see here, or other machine learning engines. Obviously, a very popular use case would be generating code. If you're not a programmer, you could just say, hey, write a function in JavaScript or write a function in Python to yada, yada, yada. But I'm going to do chain of thought reasoning. So finally, when you do chain of thought, this is really what we're asking for here. And like I said, you don't have to say please, okay? But at the end, you could say something like, do not answer immediately. Show me step by step your thinking. So basically in this example they're giving us here, which they're going to use in Amazon Titan G1 Premier, where Jeff has $100, he gives $20 to Sarah, and then buys lottery tickets, and then wants to buy lunch and over. And so they're basically saying, don't give me the number. What you're asking for as a result is how much maximum money can Jeff give to Steven to save $10 for his ride back home, but you want to find out how it got there. So chain of thought reasoning, you always end up with show me how you got to that result. For example, if you want to do mathematics and you wanted to show the steps you went through to factor a large number, for example. Let's finish up looking at some best practices. Some best practices for better response quality in prompt engineering is make sure you use clear and specific prompts. Avoid ambiguity. This helps the model understand the task better and generate more accurate responses. Provide some or even more context. Remember, if at first you don't succeed, try again. So include relevant context in the prompt to help it generate responses that are more aligned with your desired outcome. Then, refine the process in an iterative fashion, continuously improving and testing prompts to identify the most effective wording and structure. Then, use some examples, providing examples within the prompt. For example, the single shot or the few shot prompt can help the model understand the desired output. And then finally, assess and make some refinements. Regularly evaluate the performance of the prompts and make the necessary adjustments to improve your response quality. And remember, in the future, regardless of the business case, we're going to need very skilled and qualified prompt engineers.